Jai Hind students, welcome to my YouTube channel. Students, life is best for those who are enjoying it, difficult for those who are comparing it, worst for those who are criticizing it, and your own attitude defines your life. So, students, you better enjoy life for each and every moment and stop criticizing and comparing your life with others. Instead, enjoy each and every moment of your life.
In this particular episode, we are going to discuss the refraction at convex spherical surfaces. And case 1 is when the object lies in the rarer medium and the image formed is real, right? So image formed is real means it should be formed on the other side as that of the object. It means that if the object is lying in the rarer medium, then for the image to be real, it must be formed in the denser medium, right? So as we are already aware, convex spherical surface means it is that type of spherical refracting surface whose convex portion is towards the rarer medium, right? And its center of curvature, this is center of curvature, it lies in the denser medium. This you are aware, students, it is known as the pole, right? And the line joining the pole and the center of curvature, this is known as the principal axis. Clear, students? So let's start with the article by drawing the ray diagram first. Let O be any object over here. As per assumptions, as we have already discussed in the previous lecture, the sign convention, the assumptions. So as per the assumption, the object is considered to be point in size and is located on the principal axis, right? Suppose at this point, we would like to study the refraction. So for that, students, we need to draw a normal at this particular point. Suppose this point is A. Normal is, students, a line joining C, which is the center of curvature, to any point on the surface. So it has to be represented by dotted lines. So this will represent the normal. This curved surface, it's a part of a sphere, the center of which is known as center of curvature. And line joining the center to a point on the surface of the sphere will act as the normal, right? And this is the object O. And this ray, student, this will be the incident ray. This is the incident ray. Don't forget to indicate this arrowhead. This is the incident ray, OA. And the angle which the incident ray makes with the normal, that is known as angle of incidence. Suppose this is I. Now, students, we are already aware of the rules for bending of light. Whenever ray travels from air to glass, that is from rarer medium to denser medium, then it will tend to bend towards the normal. So the angle of refraction in the denser medium must be less than the angle of incidence in the rarer medium. So let us draw the refracted ray. Okay, this is the refracted ray. Suppose AI. Right? This is the refracted ray, and the angle which this refracted ray makes with the normal, this will be the angle of refraction. Clear, students? And one more thing, students. A ray which is incident normally, in this case this ray is incident normally, that is angle of incidence is 0 degree. It will go in the straight path. It won't suffer any sort of bending. So this is the second ray. A ray which is incident normally, it will remain undeviated. So these two refracted rays intersect or meet at point I. This is where the image is formed, right? This is the object lying in the rarer medium, and this is the image which is formed on the other side as that of the object. So this image is real. Suppose, students, the refractive index of the rarer medium be mu1 and the refractive index of the glass be mu2. These are the absolute refractive indexes of the rarer and the denser medium respectively, right? And also, let us assume this to be angle alpha. It is the angle which the incident ray makes with the principal axis. Let this be the angle beta. It is the angle which the refracted ray makes with the principal axis, right? And let us consider this angle to be gamma. This is the angle which this normal makes with the principal axis. And as per assumptions, we are already aware, alpha, beta, gamma, they are very, very small. So they can be replaced with their tangents, right? So let's apply Snell's law over here. So applying Snell's law at point A, we get Snell's law is, students, ratio of sine of angle of incidence to the sine of angle of refraction is constant, and that constant is equal to the refractive index of the medium in which the angular refraction lies with respect to the other medium in which the angle of incidence lies, isn't it? So applying Snell's law at point A, we get sin I divided by sin R, and it is equal to refractive index of glass with respect to air. This is medium 1, this is medium 2. So it is 2 with respect to 1. And students, we are already aware of the refraction through multiple media. Mu 2 1, it would be equal to absolute refractive index of medium 2 to the absolute refractive index of medium 1. Clear, students? Mu 1 is the refractive index of the rarer medium, mu 2 is the absolute refractive index of the denser medium. Therefore, mu 1 sin I is equal to mu 2 sin R. Now, angles I and R are also very, very small because we have considered the aperture to be very small, isn't it? So point A will lie very close to point P. So therefore, since angles I and R are very small, this we have already discussed during the assumptions. Therefore, sin I, it can be written as I, sin R, it can be approximately written as R. Therefore, mu 1 I is equal to mu 2 R. Put this as equation number 1. Right, students? We have already discussed the assumptions and the sign conventions to be used. In case of any doubt, students, you can fall back to the previous lecture, the link of which I will provide it in the description section of this present video, right? Well, this first part is over. Applying Snell's law at point A, we get this particular result. Now, students, we need to get a relationship between alpha, beta and gamma. For that, what we do is consider triangle, I think AOC, right? So now what we do is make use of exterior angle theorem. Look, this is the exterior angle, angle I, and these are the two opposite interior angles. We are aware exterior angle is equal to the sum of the opposite interior angles, that is alpha plus gamma, right? Now, as we are aware, alpha, beta, gamma, they are very, very small. Therefore, they can be replaced with their tangents. That is, alpha may be written as tan alpha, gamma may be written as tan gamma. Now, tan alpha, in order to get the value of tan alpha, what you do is drop a perpendicular from A. Suppose this is n. And suppose this perpendicular distance AN is equal to, let us say, x. Suppose AN, this perpendicular distance is equal to x. So tan alpha, students, it's perpendicular by base, isn't it? So it will be x by NO plus tan gamma. You can consider this right angle triangle, tan gamma, perpendicular by base, that is x by NC, and it is equal to I. Now, students, since the aperture, again in assumptions we have considered the aperture, that is the size or the diameter of the refracting spherical surface, is considered to be small. So in practice, this point A lies very close to point P. Therefore, if you drop the perpendicular from A to the principal axis, then this point N will lie infinitesimally close to point P. So as a result, points N and P may be considered to be coincident. Therefore, NO, it may be written as PO, and NC, it may be written as PC. Remember, students, all the distances are to be measured from the pole. So P should be the initial letter. Therefore, I is equal to x over, x is considered to be this perpendicular distance, AN, right? It will be common for every triangle. This perpendicular will be common. So x over in place of NO we'll write PO plus x over in place of NC we'll write PC. Put this as equation number 2, right? Similarly, consider this triangle ACI. Again, make use of the extrude angle theorem. In this case, gamma, it is the extrude angle and it is equal to the sum of the opposite interior angles. That is, gamma is equal to R plus beta. We need to get the value of R. So R can be rearranged as gamma minus beta. Again, students, alpha, beta, gamma are very small. Therefore, they can be replaced with their tangents. Gamma may be written as tan gamma, beta may be written as tan beta. So tan gamma is perpendicular by base, that is x over NC minus tan beta. Consider this triangle so as to obtain tan beta, perpendicular by base, that is x divided by Ni. Now, as discussed earlier, this point N almost coincides with point P. They are infinitesimally close to each other because of the small aperture of the refracting surface. So NC may be written as PC and Ni, it may be written as Pi. Therefore, students, x over NC over x over Ni is equal to R over here, right? Therefore, this angle of refraction is equal to x divided by, in place of NC we can write PC, plus or rather minus x over Ni. So x over Ni may be written as Pi. So put this as equation number 3. Now students, we have obtained the value of I and R. Now simply what we need to do is substitute this value of I and R in equation 1. So therefore, from first, second and third we get, substitute the value mu1 I, substitute the value of I, it is x over PO plus x over PC is equal to mu2 R, substitute the value of R from equation 3, it is x over PC minus x over Pi. So x is common on both the sides, so it's get eliminated. Therefore, mu1 over PO plus mu1 over PC is equal to mu2 over PC minus mu2 over Pi. Right? Which further implies that you can rearrange the terms, right? And basically, now let's make use of sign convention. Now applying sign convention, what we get is, applying sign convention. You are aware all the distances are to be measured from the pole. The distances measured along the direction of the incident ray, that is from left to right, are to be considered positive, while the distances measured from right to left, that is against the direction of the incident ray, that is to be assigned negative sign. So accordingly, PO, it is the object distance. Object distance will be denoted by U. Now incident ray is traveling in this direction. PO is measured in the opposite direction. So as per sign convention, it should be assigned negative sign. U is the notation which will be making use to represent object distance. Pi, this is the image distance. Image distance will be denoted by small letter v. Now Pi is measured along the same direction as that of the incident ray. So it is to be taken as positive. And PC, it is again measured along the same direction as that of the incident ray. So it is to be taken as R plus R. R is the radius of curvature. R is the radius of curvature. Right, students? So substitute these values over here. What we get is minus mu1 over U plus mu1 over PC is R is equal to mu2 over R Pi is plus V. So minus mu 2 over V. That is, try to rearrange it. So we get minus mu 1 over U plus mu 2 over V is equal to, R is common both the sides. We get mu 2 minus mu 1 divided by R. So students, this is a very, very important expression. And this is valid when the object is placed in the rarer medium. So the formula is minus mu 1 over U plus mu 2 over V is equal to mu 2 minus mu 1 by R. Mu 1 is the absolute refractive index of the rarer medium. Mu 2 is the absolute refractive index of the denser medium. Right? R is the radius of curvature. Now students, the above formula can be expressed in another manner as well. We can divide throughout by mu 1. So dividing throughout by mu 1, what we get is minus 1 by U plus over here we get mu 2 by mu 1 divided by V is equal to, here we get mu 2 by mu 1 minus 1 divided by R. Right? So what I've done is dividing throughout this equation with mu 1, or minus 1 by U plus mu by V is equal to mu minus 1 by R. So this is another way of representing the above result. Here students, mu is the relative refractive index of medium 2 with respect to medium 1. So which is absolute refractive index of medium 2 divided by absolute refractive index of medium 1. Clear students? Students, let us discuss the second case when the object lies in the rarer medium and the image formed is virtual. Image formed as virtual means in this case the image would be formed on the same side as that of the object. So we are talking of convex refracting spherical surface only, and this is case 2. So what's the difference basically in case A and B is, in case A we have assumed the object to be somewhere over here at a faraway distance from the pole of this convex refracting surface. But in order to obtain the virtual image, the object is to be placed much closer to the pole of the convex refracting spherical surface. So this is where the object is assumed to be lying, much closer, right? This is the pole and this is the rarer medium of refractive index, say mu 1, and this is the denser medium, say of refractive index, absolute refractive index mu 2. This is obviously the center of curvature. Let's draw the ray diagram first. Suppose this is the point where we need to get the incident ray incident at this particular point so as to observe the refraction. So as I've told you, first and foremost, you need to draw a normal. Normal is a line passing through the center of curvature and joining that point on the surface. So this dotted line, this will act as the normal, isn't it? Now, let the ray from the object get incident at this point. So this is the incident ray. The angle which the incident ray makes with the normal, that's angle of incidence. This entire angle is the angle of incidence, right? And the second is, students, the ray from the object which is incident normally on the refracting surface, it will remain undeviated like this. It will remain undeviated. Here the angle of incidence is 0 degree. It is normally incident. So it will remain undeviated. Now here students, at this point, suppose this is point A, the ray is traveling from rarer to denser. So it will bend towards the normal obviously. So it will be like this. This is the refracted ray. And the angle which this refracted ray makes with the normal is the angle of refraction. Now here angle of refraction must be smaller than the angle of incidence in the rarer medium. Now look students, these two rays, this is the refracted ray, first one, and this is the second refracted ray. So these two will never meet over here, right? The gap between them will keep on increasing. So what we do is, we will produce it in the backward direction. And since it's an imaginary line, we are producing it in the backward direction, so it has to be represented by dotted line. It has to be represented by dotted line. It's an imaginary line. And also students, this is another ray which we are producing it in the backward direction from the object, so it has to be represented by dotted line. So the intersection of two dotted lines, that will represent the formation of virtual image. So this is where the virtual image I will be formed. Clear? So this is the appropriate ray diagram. Now this we have considered to be alpha, the angle which the incident ray makes to the principal axis. The angle which the refracted ray makes to the principal axis, that is considered to be beta. And students, this angle which the normal to the principal axis makes is considered to be gamma, right? And drop a perpendicular from point A. This is point N. And as we have considered the aperture to be very small, so in that case point A will lie very close to point P. So in such a scenario, alpha, beta, gamma would be very small, angle I, angle R would be also very small, and point N will lie infinitesimally close to point P. So for all practical assumptions, we can consider points P and N to be coinciding with each other, right? Now let's apply Snell's law at point A. So applying Snell's law at point A, we get sin I divided by sin R. Angular refraction is lying in the denser medium. So it will be refractive index of denser medium with respect to the rarer medium. This is the first medium, this is the second medium. This in turn would be given by the absolute refractive index of the second medium divided by the absolute refractive index of the first medium. So by cross multiplication we get mu I into sin I is equal to mu 2 into sin R. Now since angle I and angle R are very small, therefore I can be written as sin I and R approximately is sin R. Thus, what we get is mu 1 I is equal to mu 2 R. Put this as equation number 1. Clear? We'll proceed in the same manner as we have done it in the previous article. Now students, we need to choose two triangles and there we need to make use of exterior angle theorem. So first and foremost, let us consider this particular triangle. This triangle, AOC. We are considering this triangle. So consider triangle AOC. I am considering this triangle, students. This is the exterior angle, obviously. This is the exterior angle. Therefore, exterior angle is equal to the sum of the opposite interior angles. And since we have already discussed alpha, beta, gamma can be replaced with their tangents. So I may be written as tan alpha plus tan gamma. Still further, tan alpha, suppose this perpendicular distance is x. So tan alpha is perpendicular by base. So it is x over NO plus tan gamma. Gamma is over here. So I am considering this triangle. It will be equal to perpendicular by base is NC. And again, as per assumptions, N and P may be considered to be coincident. Therefore, NO may be written as PO and NC may be approximately written as PC. So therefore students, it would be equal to x over PO plus x over PC. Put this as equation number 2. Similarly, consider other triangle. Okay, consider triangle AIC, this big triangle AIC. Right students, let's consider this triangle. So consider triangle AIC. AIC. This angle is beta, this angle is gamma, and this will be the exterior angle. Now these are the two lines, straight lines, right? So this angle would be equal to this angle. Vertically opposite angles, isn't it? So in this triangle, students, R would be equal to beta plus gamma. Again the same thing. exterior angle is equal to the sum of the opposite interior angles. That is, R would be equal to beta plus gamma, or R may be written as tan beta plus tan gamma, which further implies that R may be written as tan beta perpendicular by base. So x over ni plus tan gamma x over nc perpendicular by base. Now ni may be written as pi, nc may be written as pc, isn't it? Therefore, R would be given by x over pi plus x over pc. Put this as equation 3. Now as usual, what we will do is substitute the value of I and R from 2 and 3 in equation 1. So from first, second and third we get, okay, mu1 I is x over po plus x over pc is equal to mu2 R is x over pi plus x over pc. Clear? That is mu1 over po plus mu1 over pc, x is common on both the sides, mu2 over pi plus mu2 over pc. Now let's apply sign convention. So applying sign convention, we get students PO. Now this is PO. Incident ray is from left to right. PO is measured from right to left. That is in a direction opposite to that of the incident ray. So it has to be taken as negative. PI, virtual, so it will be negative. You can see this is the image. So this distance is V, isn't it? This distance is V. Now incident ray is from left to right. PI is measured from right to left. So it has to be taken as negative. And virtual image, its distance is always to be taken as negative. And PC is in the same direction as that of the incident ray. So it has to be taken as positive. So let's substitute this value over here. So what do you get? Minus mu1 over u plus mu1 over r is equal to, pi is minus v. So minus mu2 over v plus mu2 over r. Or students, just rearrange it. Minus mu1 over u plus mu2 over v is equal to mu2 minus mu1 divided by r. Students, this is the same result which we have obtained in the first case, right? So what is the conclusion basically? So the conclusion is, it is immaterial, it is of no consequence whether the nature of the image is real or virtual. If the object is lying in the rarer medium, then the same formula will hold valid, irrespective of the fact whether the image formed is real or virtual. Clear? And students, you are aware, in case we divide throughout by mu1, so what we get is minus 1 by u plus mu2 by mu1 by v is equal to mu2 by mu1 minus 1 divided by r. What I have done is I have divided throughout by mu1. So it can also be written as minus 1 by u plus mu by v is equal to mu minus 1 by r. Here mu is the relative refractive index of medium 2 with respect to medium 1, which is the absolute refractive index of medium 2 divided by the absolute refractive index of medium 1. Right? So this result may also be written in this particular manner. So students, we have done case 2 as well, right? Okay students, now let us proceed with the third case. That is, we'll consider the object to be placed in the denser medium, right? So what we do is, this is the principal axis, this is the pole of the convex refracting spherical surface, Now let us consider the object to be placed somewhere between the pole and the center of curvature inside the denser medium. So O is the object over here, right? Let us consider this to be the point A, where the refraction of light is to be studied. So before we draw the ray diagram, we need to draw the normal. And students, as I've told you, a normal is a perpendicular to the surface, isn't it? So you need to draw a normal to the point A. And normal would be any line joining C and A. Any line joining the center of curvature to a point on the surface, that will act as the normal, right? So, incident ray, this OA will act as the incident ray. And students, as we are aware, the angle which the incident ray makes with the normal, that is known as the angle of incidence. This angle would be the angle of incidence. Now here, students, the ray is traveling from denser to rarer medium. So definitely the ray will bend away from the normal. So as a result, the angle of refraction in the rarer medium would be greater than the angle of incidence in the denser medium. So this is the refracted ray. And the angle which this refracted ray makes with the normal will be the angle of refraction, right? So OA is the incident ray, and A, suppose this is point Q, AQ is the refracted ray. And another ray which is incident normally at point P will remain undeviated. This is the ray which will remain undeviated. So these two rays will never be able to meet over here, isn't it? The gap between them will keep on increasing. So what to do is produce this refracted ray AQ in the backward direction, like this. And this ray also produce it in the backward direction. So here, students, the intersection of two dotted lines will give the position of the image which is obtained, right? Now here, as you can see, the image I is formed on the same side as that of the object. So the nature of the image formed over here is virtual, right? So from here we can drop a perpendicular. Suppose this is point N. Now since the aperture of the refracting surface is considered to be small, therefore point P and N may be considered to be coincident, right? This is rarer medium of refractive index mu1. This is denser medium of refractive index mu2. So now, as we have done in the previous two articles, let's start with applying Snell's law at point A. So applying Snell's law at point A, we get ratio of the sine of angle of incidence to the sine of angle of refraction is constant, and that constant is the refractive index. This is the angle of refraction lying in medium 1. This is medium 2. So it will be refractive index of medium 1 with respect to medium 2. And this in turn, this relative refractive index of 1 with respect to 2, it would be equal to absolute refractive index of medium 1 divided by absolute refractive index of medium 2. Clear, students? So what we get now is sine I divided by sine R is equal to mu1 over mu2. And since we have already discussed angle I, angle R would be very, very small, isn't it? Therefore sine I may be written as I, sine R may be written as R. It is mu1 by mu2. Or, students, mu2 into I is equal to mu1 into R. Put this as equation number 1. Clear? Okay, now we have to consider the exterior angle theorem for two triangles. So we have to choose two triangles, right? So as you are aware, this angle is alpha. It is the angle which the incident ray makes with the principal axis. This is the angle which the refracted ray makes with the principal axis. This is considered to be beta. And the angle which this normal makes with the principal axis is considered to be gamma. Clear? So let's consider triangle AOC. I'm talking about this triangle. So in triangle AOC, what we get is exterior angle, alpha is the exterior angle, is equal to the sum of the opposite interior angles. Alpha, it would be equal to I plus gamma. And since I is to be found, isn't it? So I can be rearranged as alpha minus gamma. Now alpha, beta, gamma are very small. Therefore, they can be replaced with their tangents. And accordingly, students, it can be written as tan alpha minus tan gamma. So it further implies that I is equal to tan alpha. For that, you need to consider this right angle triangle. And suppose this perpendicular AN is equal to X. So tan alpha is perpendicular by base. Tan alpha, base is NO. Minus tan gamma is again perpendicular by base. Base is NC. Now students, as P and N are very close to each other, therefore NO may be written as PO and NC may be written as PC. Thus, I would be given by X over PO minus X over PC. Put this as equation number 2. Similarly, students, consider another set of triangle. Consider triangle, let's consider this triangle, AIO, this triangle, right? So consider triangle AIO. Here again, let's make use of exterior angle theorem. Now look students, this angle and this angle, these are the vertically opposite angles, isn't it? So this entire angle would be R. These are the vertically opposite angles, isn't it? So consider AIC, not AIO, consider triangle AIC. So in this particular triangle AIC, students, beta is the exterior angle and R and gamma are the opposite interior angles. So what we get is beta is equal to R plus gamma, or angle R, it may be written as beta minus gamma. Alpha, beta, gamma are very small, therefore they can be replaced with their tangents. Therefore R may be written as tan beta minus tan gamma, which further implies that R is equal to X divided by tan beta. So we are talking about this triangle perpendicular by base NI. Minus tan gamma, it is X over tan gamma, perpendicular by base, that is NC. Again, N and P being very close to each other, NI may be written as PI, NC may be written as PC. Thus, angle R, it would be equal to X by PI minus X by PC. Now since we have obtained the values of I and R, we need to substitute these values in equation 1. So from equation 1, 2 and 3, we get mu2 into I1, that is mu2, substitute the value of I, that is X over PO minus X over PC is equal to mu1 into R. R is X over PI minus X over PC. Clear? X is common on both the sides. So what we get is mu2 over PO minus mu2 over PC is equal to mu1 over PI minus mu1 over PC. Right? Now in the last step, let's apply sign convention. So applying sign convention, we get, now look students, here the incident ray is traveling from right to left. This is the incident ray. This is the direction of incident ray. This is the object and this is the pole, right? So incident ray is traveling from right to left. So all the distances which are measured from right to left will be taken as positive, while all the other distances which are measured from left to right will be taken as negative. So here PI, PO, PC all are measured in the direction against the direction of the incident ray. So all are negative. So PO, it will be equal to minus U, right? It's the object distance. This is PO. PI, it's the image distance, and PC, it is the radius of curvature. So PI, PO, PC, all are measured from left to right, that is in a direction opposite to that of the incident ray, which is from right to left. So all are negative. So Pi is equal to minus V. For virtual image, V is negative. PC is equal to minus R. Let's substitute these values over here. So what we get is mu2 over minus U minus mu2 over PC is minus R. Here mu1 over Pi, it's minus V, minus mu1 over PC, it's again minus R. So let us try to rearrange the terms. What we get is minus mu2 over U plus mu1 over V is equal to mu1, right? Minus minus, it will become plus. So mu1, it will become plus, but on bringing this term over here, the sign will get changed. So it will be minus mu2 divided by R. So students, this is the expression, or rather this is the relationship between the refractive indices of the two medium and the object distance, image distance, and the radius of curvature, in case when the object is placed in the denser medium. So do remember, this is the formula which is applicable for any type of spherical refracting surfaces, provided the object is placed in the denser medium, right? Now what we can do is, we can get an alternative expression as well. For that, we need to divide throughout on both the sides by mu1. So what we get is minus mu2 by mu1 divided by U plus mu1 by mu1 will become 1 is equal to 1 minus mu2 by mu1 divided by R. So in other words, it can also be written as minus mu over U plus 1 by V is equal to 1 minus mu divided by R. So this is another alternative expression, right? Here mu is, students, it is the relative refractive index of medium 2 with respect to medium 1. So here mu is the relative refractive index of medium 2 with respect to medium 1. Clear? Mu is equal to mu2 divided by mu1. So students, in the previous three cases, what we have discussed is, in case the object is situated in the rarer medium, so that the incident ray travels in the rarer medium and the refracted ray travels in the denser medium, then the relation between UV, R, mu1 and mu2 is minus mu1 over U plus mu2 over V is equal to mu2 minus mu1 by R. This relationship holds valid if the object lies in the rarer medium, irrespective of the fact whether the nature of the image obtained is real or virtual. Clear? Similarly, if the object lies in the denser medium, that is, in case the object is situated in the denser medium so that the incident ray travels in the denser medium and refracted ray in the rarer medium, then this expression is obtained. Now students, just remember any one of these two expressions. The other can be obtained simply by interchanging mu1 and mu2. Look, here it's mu1, interchange it by mu2. Here it's mu2, interchange it by mu1. In place of mu2, write mu1, and in place of mu1, write mu2. So remember any one formula, and the other formula can be easily remembered by interchanging mu1 and mu2. So this is the formula applicable when the object is placed in the rarer medium, and this is the formula applicable when the object is placed in the denser medium. Clear, students? And always remember, it is of no consequence, it is immaterial, it is of no importance whether the image obtained is real or virtual. Just the point to be considered is whether the object lies in the rarer medium or the object lies in the denser medium. Accordingly, you need to make use of either of these two equations, right? Another important point, students, the term on the right hand side, that is the difference in the refractive indices of the two medium divided by the radius of curvature, it actually gives the power of the spherical refracting surface, right? So this term, it gives the power of the spherical refracting surface. So power of a spherical refracting surface is given by spherical refracting surface. It's given by P is equal to mu2 minus mu1 divided by R, or mu1 minus mu2 divided by R, depending upon whether it is concave refracting spherical surface or convex refracting spherical surface. The power of that given surface can be either negative or positive. So the power of a spherical refracting surface is given by the difference in the refractive indices of the two medium divided by the radius of curvature. Actually, students, the power, it gives the measure of the degree to which the refracting surface can converge or diverge the rays of light passing through it. That is how the power of a refracting surface is defined. Students, I have written the statement over here. The power of a spherical refracting surface is defined as, or rather it gives the measure of the degree to which the refracting surface can converge or diverge the rays of light passing through it. And students, look, refractive index, it do not possess any unit. It's the ratio of two similar physical quantities, isn't it? While radius of curvature, its SI unit is meter. So the SI unit of power is meter inverse. And meter inverse is also known as diopter. So which is represented by capital D. So the SI unit of power of a refracting surface is meter inverse or diopter. So students, that's it for this particular session. I hope you have understood all the mathematical derivations and do practice these articles, right? It is only through practice that you can gain in confidence. So that's it for this session, students, and do join me in my next lecture then. In the next lecture, which is again very important one, we will discuss the refraction at concave spherical surface, right? Till then, bye-bye, and do take very good care of yourself. Thank you.